everyone, my name is Shauna, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. Today has really not been my day. I did something for school, like this Zoom session, and it turned out really badly, and then my makeup turned out really badly, and now I can't get the lighting right on my camera. Today is not my day. Anyways, happy Pride Month to those of you who celebrate and appreciate this month. So it is the start of Pride Month, but I gotta do my wrap up from May, because I made a vow to myself that I would do a wrap up on my YouTube channel at the end of every month / the start of the next month. So this is my May reading wrap up. I promise you that I'm gonna read more LGBTQ+ books in June. I read like one book that's labeled as LGBTQ+ this month, and I read a series that has a side couple that's lesbian, and I read one book that has a side couple that's lesbian as well. So I didn't read like a ton of representation in May, but I'm gonna do better. I got a notification on my laptop. Anyways, let's just get on into this video and I'll just stop rambling about things. So the first book that I read this month was Once Upon a K-prom. This was by Kat Cho, and Once Upon a K-prom is about these childhood friends. Childhood friends are Robbie and Elena. Robbie moved away and became a K-pop idol when they were young, but Elena still lives in their hometown, and Robbie comes back into her life to like keep his promise that he made that he would take her to prom. And the story progresses from there. It is a young adult contemporary romance. It's by Kat Cho, who wrote like Wicked Fox and a ton of other popular books. However, I was really disappointed by this one. Like, I overall liked it, but I found a lot of things about this book to be really annoying. I found several of the characters had very inconsistent personalities. Like, they would be acting one way for like a good portion of the book, and then all of a sudden they'd do something completely out of character, but like it wasn't because they were drunk or anything. It was just because it felt like the characters were poorly written, some of them. Not all of them, okay? Not all of them. I got a little more invested once it got more like in depth into the K-pop world, but like I still wasn't super invested. And also like everyone blamed Elena for like everything going on in their life, and Elena didn't like stand up for herself and stuff. So yeah, this was a 3-star read. I was really annoyed by it and I expected more, but like it wasn't awful, okay? I really didn't mind it, you know? Next up is Attack on Titan Volume 22. I read this one this month. I've been slowly working my way through this series. This volume was a 3-star read for me because it was like fairly enjoyable, but like it wasn't amazing, and it was just a ton of info dumping. I mean, it's finally giving you information about the Titans, like where they came from and how it works and stuff, but I was also like, geez, this is just info dumping. It's not even like entertaining or anything. So this was a 3-star read for me. Like, I mean, it was decently entertaining. It just wasn't amazing, okay? I expected better because I have loved so many books in this series, and whenever I get a book that's just mediocre, I feel really disappointed, and this was one that was just mediocre. The thing that I mentioned earlier from my school, that I had to do a Zoom session, I kept like not being able to get my words out right, and so I'm very sorry if I'm not making sense, and I'm very sorry if like my brain randomly jumps to a different topic, because that's what was happening in my Zoom session for my school, and I was horrified and embarrassed with myself, but like I couldn't snap out of it. So I feel like I'm sort of doing that right now. I feel like I have a lot of things to say for the books that I'm reading, but it's not coming out of my mouth right. Anyways, next up is this book called Never Coming Home. This is by Hannah Mary McKinnon. This is a adult thriller. I did enjoy this one. I gave it 3 stars. I found it like fairly enjoyable and fun, and it was like a little thrilling, but like I like thrillers where there's a little bit of a thrill to it, but like it won't keep me up late at night from scariness, and that was the case with this book. My main issue with this book is that this book spoils itself on the back cover and on the description for this book, because it is labeling itself as a feminist book, and as soon as you hear the phrase feminist and read the synopsis for this book, you will be able to guess the plot twist. So that was like a little disappointing for me. Like, I wish that this book had been labeled differently so that you wouldn't be able to guess the plot twist. But this book is about a guy who hires a hitman to kill his wife, and the mystery that ensues from that, because he starts getting these mysterious notes and things that are getting under his skin that are making him feel like someone is onto him. He covered his tracks really well, but it seems like someone knows what's going on, and it pursues from there. It has a lot of twists, but like the main plot twist at the end was something that I guessed right away, so I was really disappointed that. I don't know if it's just me. Like, if you hear a guy hired a hitman to kill his wife, and you hear that it's a feminist story. Can you guess the twist? Because I guessed the twist before I even read the first page. But I don't know if maybe my brain just is good at guessing those type of things, but I was able to guess that really early on, and that was disappointing to me. Next up, I read Life and Death Twilight Reimagined by Stephanie Meyer. Another 3-star read. This one was also disappointing. My major issue with this one is that none of the characters were believable. So Life and Death is the gender-swapped retelling of Twilight. However, Stephanie tried so hard to make the characters the exact counterparts of their characters in Twilight that it felt like she just lost track of trying to make the characters seem real. So the characters all felt so fake, and it felt so much like she's just attaching labels to them and trying to make the character as close to them as possible. So like, for example, Archie is Alice. Archie is friendly and energetic. But it didn't work because everything that Archie did was done to try and make Archie exactly like Alice Cullen and not like a believable character. And this was the case with all of the characters in this book, except for I found Julie, aka Jacob, to be sort of believable, and I found Michaela, aka Mike Newton, to be sort of believable. So this book was like a little bit of a disappointment. However, the ending was very different from Twilight, and I actually appreciated that. I mean, it was very depressing, but it was still like a good change to this book that I liked. Next up is the only book that is like labeled as LGBTQ+ that I read this month, and this is Notable Native People. This is 50 Indigenous Leaders, Dreamers, and Changemakers from Past and Present by Adrienne Keene. And this book was really enjoyable. This was my only 5-star read this month. I really love this book. I flew through it. I wish that this book were longer, and I really want to learn more about some of these people. So this book has beautiful drawings of the different people, and it gives information about them here. I love how this book included a blend of people from history and people from present times. I feel like a lot of times schools teach it as if Indigenous people don't exist anymore, but they have always existed and they will always exist. And I loved how this book tackled the topic of gender and how gender is different for Indigenous cultures, and how really this idea of 2 genders that people are so stringent on forcing onto people was actually something that was brought over with colonization. So for example, there's been 2-spirit people in a lot of Native communities for like the history of their communities. Like the idea of more than 2 genders isn't something new, it's something that's always been there, and I love that. And I loved how there was a lot of like environmental stuff in here about like global warming and stuff, and you get to read about these people who are really involved in that type of stuff. So I really enjoyed this book, and I found it to be very eye-opening, interesting, and enjoyable. Next up is Attack on Titan Volume 23, another one of the Marley arc. I do not like the Marley arc, as I've said. This one focuses on Rainier, and it is like after the time leap, which I don't like this time leap because it was so sudden, and it felt like, I don't know, I wanted it to continue where it left off at the end of volume 21, because that was like a major key volume where so many things happened, and I wish it would have just continued from there, but instead we get this time leap. It introduces so many new characters in here, and I'm like, really? You spent 21 volumes getting us invested into the characters in the Survey Corps, and then you just switch to different characters and expect us to just go with the flow and be chill with it? I didn't like that creative choice that this author made. Anyways, I did give this one 3 stars though, because I found it to be an okay read. Next up, I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy. So The Deal is a very popular book. It has some of the ugliest covers ever. But The Deal is basically about these 2 people in college. So Garrett is this guy who is flunking a philosophy class, and Hannah is doing really well in the philosophy class, and so Garrett convinces Hannah to tutor him, and a steamy romance ensues after that. My issue with this book is that the steamy sexual scenes were written very poorly. The first sexual scene was so embarrassing. I had so much secondhand embarrassment that I was like, oh my gosh, I might have to quit this book. But I pushed through, I finished it, okay? It's free on the iBook store, and I believe it's free on Amazon as well. And it's like really popular, so if you like want to see what the hype is about, it is free on a lot of ebook stores, so you can go ahead and get it. I also felt like the whole relationship in this book was based on just sex for a lot of it. Like, it didn't feel like there was more to it than just having sex nonstop. And the main guy, Garrett, was a little bit misogynistic throughout the book, so yeah, it was a 2-star read for me. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't like it. I do not understand the hype. I'm sort of confused by so many terrible steamy books get popular, because I'm like, there's better smut out there. You don't have to read terribly written smut, you know? Anyways, moving on, the next book that I read is another book with smut in it. I promise that I don't normally read tons of books with smut. This one I wasn't even sure if it would have smut until I got into it. This one is called Wolf Signs. It is by Vivian Arend. So Wolf Signs is obviously a werewolf story. I'm really into werewolves. I wanted to read this one, didn't know that there would be as much sex in it. I think it really could have done with less sex. The thing about me and smut in books is I'm like, you shouldn't aim to get as much smut as physically possible in your book. You should focus on the story and add smut when it benefits the story, unless you're explicitly writing in erotica. So yeah, but I did enjoy Wolf Signs overall. I did like how each of the characters like clearly had chemistry, and the guy really took the time to like understand her, and like it was sort of a good story. I gave it 3 stars. I did overall enjoy it. It just like could have done with a little less sex, and also it's very much like, oh my gosh, alpha male trope, so attractive, and I was like, I don't like that trope, but it was a pretty good book. I just probably am not gonna read any more of this series because it's too smutty for me, but like it was a pretty decent book. Things are really not going well for me today. I took off all my makeup, was about to just go relax when I went back to watch the footage I recorded, and my phone conveniently deleted me talking about one of the books. So I guess I gotta refilm this portion of the video. It's okay. It's fine. I'll be okay. It's just been a rough day. So the book that my camera conveniently decided to just delete that clip was for the Twilight Illustrator Guide by Stephanie Meyer. This helped me finish my goal of finishing the Twilight series this year. I am not gonna have reading the Twilight graphic novels be part of my finishing the Twilight series goal that I set for myself, because in case you don't know, the Twilight graphic novels are really expensive. I mean, if any of you are rich and want to like buy them for me, you can. Just kidding. Sort of kidding. I really want them, but I'm not gonna pay like $100+ for a graphic novel. That's just ridiculous. Anyways, so this book helped me finish that goal of mine. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I love that it gave a backstory to Alice, because I love Alice. I am an Alice girl. And I love that it gave a backstory to Victoria, because she's a character who's a villain in Twilight, and I wouldn't necessarily say that she's misunderstood, but like you understand her more before she turned into this evil person. So I really enjoyed getting to read Victoria's backstory. The reason I didn't give this one 5 stars though is because there is some very boring stuff in here. Just 2 sections, okay? Like the majority of this is enjoyable. So there's a playlist section, but it's in the format of a book. So I think that this would have been better in a different format, like on the bonus features of the DVDs, or on Stephanie Meyer's website or something, or on a YouTube channel. I just don't think that it's effective to have a section on a playlist for the books in a written format, if that makes any sense. And the other thing is the cars section is pretty boring because it goes over like some very specific details that only extreme car nerds would care about, but I'm pretty sure extreme car nerds and Twilight fans don't overlap. And what I mean by this is it talks about like how much horsepower there is, how much torque, how much engine, that's not the right word. It talks about like the specific type of engine, like 5.5 liter twin turbo V12. Like I feel like most Twilight fans won't care about that. Anyways, this was really enjoyable, but it was just a 4-star read. But this was my second favorite read of the month, so yeah. And now back to the rest of this video where you will see me with makeup on. And the final book that I read in May was Attack on Titan Volume 24, another one of the Marley arc that I'm not a super huge fan of. I mean, at the end of this one, it sort of seems like they're gonna go back to at least one of the characters from the Survey Corps, but like, it was a 3-star read for me. Again, it was just okay. It wasn't anything great. Like, I did enjoy parts of it, but I wasn't a super huge fan of it, and I really hope that it gets back to that awesome epicness that made me fall in love with this series in the first place. So those were all the books that I read in the month of May. I can't wait to read a lot more books in June. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I upload videos twice a week, so the next video will be uploaded on Friday. I hope all of you are having a great start to your Pride Month if you celebrate. So yeah, I'll see all of you on Friday for my next video. Until next time, goodbye!